Welcome to this Live at 5 edition of The Issue. I'm your host and moderator, Justin Chenette. This show is all about news, debate, and opinion. Today, our guest is Commissioner of Education Susan Gendron, only on The Issue. Let's start with your background. How did you get involved with becoming Commissioner of Education?
Well, I was serving as Superintendent of Schools in the Windham School Department, and Senator Diamond, who was a member of the governor's transition team, walked into my office one day and said, "May I have your resume to take up to the governor to consider you as a candidate for Commissioner of Education?" I was surprised and said yes, let him take my application, and from there I went through an interview process and ultimately was selected by the governor.
What are some of your duties and responsibilities as Commissioner?
Well, I have oversight for all components of public education, so the standards that define what our students should know and be able to do. I oversee school construction, school nutrition, special education, career technical education. We also provide responsibility for higher education. We approve all of the programs that are directly related to any of the colleges and universities. Anything new has to go through our office. Preschool education is another responsibility. Anything that you can think of that is directly related to education falls under the department's responsibilities.
Now, as you know, the SAT will be given to juniors in the spring, and it's a requirement. Do you feel that that was a good decision for Maine students?
Well, seeing that it was my initiative, I absolutely think it's a great strategy for us. We had to really weigh how did students view the Maine Educational Assessment, the old MEA. And what we kept hearing from students is they didn't see any relevance to it. We were also trying to create a culture in Maine that all students should believe that they have an opportunity to go on for post-secondary education. I wanted to make sure our students had all the necessary tools to be able to access that higher education. And we felt that the SAT would be a good measure of our students' knowledge and skills. And in fact, we will be receiving full approval from the U.S. Department of Education on the use of the SAT. And you'll see many other states follow Maine's lead.
Now, while we were speaking of standardized testing, President Bush's No Child Left Behind Act focuses on standardized tests as a measure of school success in meeting the learning needs of students. What are your thoughts about the initiative and the impact on Maine students?
Initially, I was concerned that No Child Left Behind took Maine in a very different direction than we had originally designed for ourselves. But I've seen some real benefits of No Child Left Behind. It has helped to focus attention on certain populations in our schools, our special education students, our limited English proficient, and it requires that our schools who don't make adequate yearly progress have to really develop a comprehensive plan. What can they do differently? That wasn't in place until No Child Left Behind. Now, there are some portions of No Child Left Behind that we are advocating for changes that we think it's a little bit too rigid for states such as Maine. We have a very rural geography, and some of the requirements such as providing choice for families. We've yet to have a family access that choice. We only have one community in the state of Maine that offers 2 high schools at this point. So some of those provisions don't work well in Maine, and we're working with our congressional delegation to make some changes.
Now, part of one's high school experience is to find the college that fits one's needs. Are there any tools in place set forth by the Department of Education to help students make that decision any easier?
Several things are happening in Maine right now. We also implemented PSATs for all students, beginning with sophomores. One of the tools that is now available to our students is called My Road. helps you to identify what are your strengths, what might you need to work on, and it helps you to connect and look at what are colleges that match your interests. So that's a tool that is an online tool available to all students. We also have a program called Choices, which is available through our guidance offices, helps you to research, look at colleges. And we've also implemented programs throughout the state of Maine called Early College. And these are initiatives where our students can actually go and take courses on campus, get a sense of that campus. And many of our high schools are now also encouraging and providing college visits throughout Maine and New England to our students. Just last week I announced that we will require our high school seniors to complete a college application as well. And we will provide guidance to our schools on assisting students so that that's another tool that you have, because we believe all students can find a school for post-secondary education.
How competitive are those Maine colleges?
Maine schools are very competitive. If you look at our public and our private institutions, we have excellent history in relationship to the students we attract. And we also find that our university system in particular, we have students who will decide to go out of state to college and return their sophomore year. That there's a real drawback to Maine, what Maine has to offer. And if you look at our programs at the University of Maine and the university system, we have some very unique programs. The Darling Center, part of the university system, is one of the top marine research centers in the world. Scientists from all over the world come here to study at the Darling Center, and it's not well advertised. Folks don't know what this richness that we have. When you look at the engineering program at the University of Maine, at both at Orono and at USM, we attract a very competitive pool of students across the country. Media programs at our university. I was in Europe not too long ago, and 24 European countries. It was a technology institute talking about Maine's media program. So we have excellent programs. We're very competitive with our New England and national colleges and universities.
What is the Department of Education doing to keep students here to study, to live, and in particular to work?
Part of our goal is the governor had an initiative called Realize Maine, and that initiative invited 25 to 35-year-old individuals who both lived in Maine and had moved out of state to find out what it was that we needed to do to either bring them back. Most of what we heard was ensure that we have a competitive wage. So looking at salaries, attracting business investment, ensuring that there are opportunities for our young people to stay in Maine is a critical factor. Realize Maine initiative has continued. The governor has staff that are working with all of our agencies across the state of Maine to make sure that we are constantly aware of what it is we need to do to bring back our young people who are out of state. But the critical piece is livable wage, attracting businesses. Our economic development strategy is one that tries to identify how do we entice and encourage our young people to stay and to return to Maine.
Now, one main focus in your department has been the governor's school reorganization plan. Can you talk about that plan in layman's terms?
It really is about ensuring that Maine can preserve quality education for students at an affordable price. 3 major reports were issued last year. The one that really focused on the cost of education was the Brookings report, citing the fact that Maine is always in the top 10 in our expenditures. We have many small districts, and one key feature of that report was reduce the cost of administration. We have 290 school districts. Each of those school districts has to employ a superintendent, run a central office. 60 of those school districts don't even operate schools, and yet they have to have central offices, they have to do audits. It's part of our law. So the governor said, let's streamline our structure so that we can preserve an investment in classroom. And that's what this initiative is really about. It's bringing us together so that we can create efficiencies, save money, and also to make sure that we preserve quality education for all Maine students, and to bring about greater coherence in the type of academic program that we're seeing across the state.
What's your role in that initiative?
It's what I live and breathe right now, day and night. My role is to help the school districts, to work with the resources that the legislature provided. I hired facilitators who work with each of the regional planning committees. We provide training for those facilitators. We do financial analysis. And I'm constantly meeting with communities, helping them to look at the possibilities. One of my jobs has been to broker. So if there's a school district that is struggling to find a partner, I very often will convene school board officials, selectmen, citizens to come together to look at the possibilities. And another major part of my job is working with the legislature, that as we implement any new law, when we find that there are problems or things that need to be fine-tuned, I'll work with the legislature when they come back in January to make sure that things will go smoothly for school districts by fine-tuning some components.